So, Paul, I wanted to ask you, how do you think it's best to develop those allyship skills and behaviours to be able to produce more meaningful outcomes for women?
Yeah, thanks, Michelle. So men often overestimate their allyship. Okay. So 77% say we're doing all that we can. Aren't we great? That we're doing everything that we feel is right and proper and holding our own. However, 41% of women agree with that. So there's quite a big difference between the women's perception of our behaviors to develop allyship. So it's quite disjointed. Although we might feel we're doing a great job, actually the reality is and the perception is that we're not doing quite enough to really truly do the things like the sponsorship that Neha was talking about there previously. So for me, I think it's about addressing that. And I think it's also, I think effective allyship, the behaviors that are in it, is about looking at it as a journey. And I think it's recognizing as a man where you are on a particular scale. Now, at Cap Gemini, we have this great thing called the Allyship Continuum. And it's a really good vehicle that helps you to understand where you sit on the scale. So you're going from passive awareness of maybe issues, problems, challenges for women in the workplace, all the way to the other end of the scale, which is proactive advocacy, standing up, calling it out, supporting, sponsoring, and all the good stuff. So on this continuum scale is obviously there's being unaware, there's being informed, then there's being active, and then there's being an advocate, a committed individual that's routinely and proactively championing inclusion. So those behaviors are almost on a continuum. I think recognizing where you are and what you need to do and improve on as a man in the workplace, I think it's really important. So back to your question about what are those behaviors, and it's brilliant that we've already heard some fantastic input from the panel reflecting on real situations of where they've seen those behaviors or maybe not seen those behaviors within the workplace. So I think really my kind of top behaviors, if you like, that I feel that are really significant and really important and support women gaining better outcomes. A lot of it is situational and individually led as well. And a lot of the activities, a lot of the behaviors don't always play out in all situations. I think that's important as an ally to understand, that you need to be sympathetic to a situation. You don't need to be too heavy, for example, or overburdening. At the same time, don't be passive and quiet when you genuinely feel something needs to be called out and escalated and dealt with. So I think a good ally can recognize and adapt to those kind of environments. And I think we've heard it already. Things like, for example, Michelle, amplifying women's voices. We've had some great examples of women being picked into roles purely because they have, not because they're women, but because they have incredible skills and are incredibly capable. And actually, you know what? Yeah, you just do that job anyway. That's your role. You're brilliant at it. I don't care if you're male, female. That doesn't matter. So again, I think helping and having a behavior that makes sure that's facilitated, called out, the right people are just doing the job, doing the role, celebrating and offering feedback and crediting where we've had incredible and significant results and input from the great women around us in our team. I think speaking up is incredibly important, calling things out, speaking up against inappropriate behavior and remarks, really trying to be that almost a visual voice. Don't leave it until after a meeting. Don't leave it and bottle it up. But actually, within an environment that is maybe challenging for certain female team members, support them, be vocal and call out the behavior. I think that's really important. The sponsorship, I had that on my list, but we've had a great insight into that already about nurturing, mentoring, sponsoring our female team members and making sure that they're visible, heard. And I guess last but not least, for those of us that are in leadership roles and have enough to have an opportunity where we can drive some change from that point of view, I think it's incredibly important that you're a model of what that should look like. You're a model of what allyship should be. You lead by example. You are somebody that is keeping the message consistent within team meetings by behavior. You're setting your tone. You've got inclusive policies and behaviors. You're making sure that you're aware of the dynamics within a team, within the different, like the organizational levels, who's being promoted, for example, who's moving where, and just making sure that as a leader that you're just demonstrating, you're absolutely reflecting on what good should look like, basically. So for me, Michelle, those were the key kind of behaviors. That's what was making my kind of top five, if you like, to answer your question.